The change in the AI business really changed the landscape of the personalization. And this is not one of those doomsday scenario that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about it as a tool set that we can use as marketers. So without further ado, let's just jump into the presentation. So in the age of ubiquitous data and AI, and by the way, I just added AI, but AI has been in use for a long time for marketers. It's just that it now reached the generative stage, meaning that the AI can create content. That's why we're getting a lot of buzz about ChatGPT and all the other similar programs. Now, let's start with the data though. Data is everywhere. I mean, we've been saying that for about 10, 20 years already. The question that I have is that, are you using the full power of the data yet? A lot of companies don't, by the way. And they use some surface data, but that's not really the end goal here. Number two, we have all kinds of data. Now, it's not just about transaction and all that, but every breath you take, every move you make, you are, as a consumer, creating some stream of data, and we got to use all those things. And the AI, well, that's a different thing, because when you say generative, that means you can create content. And I see it as a really good thing, by the way, because what has been the bottleneck all this time when I create all these segments and personas and all these models, the number one answer that I get out of the marketing team is, oh, we don't have the bandwidth to create 20 versions of the creatives. I'm like, oh, really? Then what good is the 20 different personas if you're going to send them the same thing? So I see it as a welcome thing, just like when the AI got into the model building business. You know what? Modelers can go home early. They don't have to stay up all night creating some old-fashioned like regression models anymore. Just let the machine rip it. You check it, validate it, go about using it, and spend most of your energy thinking about the targets and what you're supposed to do with it, not doing some nitty-gritty, detailed mathematical work. And I see that ChatGPT or similar uh, programs or AI modules can help you the similar way. The question that I have is, are you harnessing all this new data and technology? Are you doing that? Or are you just being scared or just follow good old marketing roadmap that was built 20 years ago and just season by season just do the same thing again and again? Well, I see it as a commitment issue, not as a technology issue anymore. So what does that mean to us? Well, there's no guessing game now. You cannot guess what's doing this. Guessing is good, by the way, because that's the beginning of the hypothesis. And then you want to prove it. Database marketing is science, by the way. So you make a hypothesis, you test it, try it, read the result, change the plan. That's what you're supposed to do. That's not guessing. Guessing is more like, oh, I think some male over 35 years old going to do something, and we're going to just pretend that that's the science and then just target them that way and spend millions of dollars on a TV targeting or whatever. Fine. That may have worked, but there is no more guessing game. And the vast amount of data collected in the name of the big data, I mean, we don't use the term big data anymore, but it's still big and bigger actually. But are they being used properly? That's the keyword here. And then, of course, we talk about analytics a lot. Analytics this, that, and I've been head of analytics in many organizations, but that's not just some afterthoughts anymore. It should be the forefront. And in fact, that should be an independent organization within your company if you're serious about it. They should not report to CIO or CMO. They should be independent. And what kind of a role do they play? Are they making the data make any easier to consume? Are they doing that? So that's the question that I ask. Oops, I went too far here. And the short-paced marketing cycle getting shorter. You put out a Facebook ad, you watch it for 6 hours, it can change your mind. I mean, that's kind of a short-paced cycle that we're talking about. It's gonna get faster because you know what? When you automate these things, and by the way, let's not be fooled by the word automation. It's not gonna do the job for you. You automate things that you know how to do already. Point being that you use automation tools to make things happen faster. But it's gonna get faster now because of the AI, at least on a reactive stage, will make decisions for you. You don't have to stay up all night clicking buttons anymore. Now, what does that all mean? Gap between the advanced marketers and those who are falling behind are getting wider. Now, when you have to compete with Amazon, for example, well, they're taking over the world. Well, they're doing all kinds of things right? And not that I'm impressed with their personalization. The point is they're still ahead of a lot of people. How do we compete with these guys? Not playing the same game, gotta do better than these guys. So again, I say the same thing on the first slide. It's about commitment. It's not about technology or data or any other tool sets that they're selling. It's not about that. It's about the commitment. If you're committing to do these things, yeah, maybe you're not going to jump to the highest level of personalization on the day one, but at least you're ahead of the game. So let's look at outside the marketing industry and see where this whole data movement is going, because I think the context is very important. And number one is every channel is or will be interactive. Even TV will be interactive. We've been talking about it for a long time. It's not like you just announce certain things to a bunch of people through all kinds of channels, hope to God that somebody walks into that net and try to sell them that way. It still works, but you have to think differently now because everything is interactive. And interaction means you create an obscene amount of data through all this interaction. And that means, so that's what it means. Every interaction will be data-based and in real time. You collect all this data, and then you have to do something. Now, what do you have to do? You have to stay relevant. Because each and every consumer, average consumer, is exposed to about 6 to 7 different type of screens every day, including their own phones. They have so much noise coming at them, and these savvy consumers, they will ignore you if they can. And you know what? That's one thing that they have to remember. They are in charge of the conversation anymore. We're not in charge of, yeah, you know what? I own this media. I'm going to just keep sending the mindless email and hope to God that they'll click. And you're going to measure your success by some open and click-through rate. And by the way, that's not response rate because you have to buy something or do something that you want them to do. You are losing your audience fast if you're not staying relevant. And how do you stay relevant? You have to talk about what they want to hear, not about what you just want to sell and announce and whatever that you're trying to do. And don't get me wrong, you still have to do those things. Because sometimes there's a brand new product coming out, you have to announce it, right? But it's more about them deciding what they're going to allow you to say to them. And they're going to divulge a lot of information to you too. Because why? Because all the savvy young consumers think that I'm going to get something out of this relationship myself. So I'm going to give you my information for as long as your message to me is interesting. Okay, I love guitars. I see some guitars we have my back here. So I signed up for some guitar sites, by the way, because I want to hear more about them. But you know what? They violated that trust like the first week. Just because I signed up to hear from them doesn't mean that I want to hear from them 5 times a day. But sometimes they just do things because they can. And that's exactly what I mean by that. When I get exposed to that kind of abuse, I will unsubscribe. That's what I'm going to do. It's so easy to do it anyway. So that means you have to stay relevant. You have to know what and how and through what channels to offer all these things to them. Otherwise, you're going to be completely ignored. If you want a proof, if you look at your own email box and see how many unopened emails there are sitting in your own email box. So, if everything is becoming interactive, then we have to rethink about one-to-one marketing. But you know what? If you go back to the classic definition of a one-to-one marketing, it's really simple this way. So let me just simplify the whole thing. Marketers must know, more so now than ever, who to contact. Just because you have some million, opt-in emails in your database doesn't mean that you have to talk to them 14 times a week. And sometimes the emails, even nowadays, it looks like a copy of your catalog. Then, I'll scroll down 8 pages and find if you see, I'll dare you find something interesting to yourself. That's not how it works. That's number 2. If you decide that you want to talk to somebody, do you know what to offer? Because you cannot just send mindless emails day after day. Just keep doing it because you're going to measure and all these companies who do that, by the way, found out that they reward their marketers based on number of successful email campaigns that they completed. That's exactly what you should not do. And number two, are you sending the same message to everybody all the time? All the time? That's not good. So you got to cut through the noise by talking about things that they want to hear. So we have to really change the focus. It's not about you, it's about them. So what does that mean for the analytics now? Analytics can help you with two things. Targeting, to answer the first question, who should you talk to? Number two, if you decide that you want to talk to somebody, do you know what they're about? What kind of affinities are you talking about here? Or what kind of a propensity that they have? How often do they want to hear from you? Through what channel? There are a lot of channels, right? But just don't look at the channel report all the time. Know the channel preference by each person. That type of things. Now, it sounds daunting, but now we can help you. We talk about all kinds of AI technologies, but let's just be simple here. AI is not that smart. They are good at one thing at a time. They have to employ all kinds of different modules to do certain things. Two things come to my mind in this context is, one, let's automate the modeling so they have to wait 3 weeks until some analyst can finish modeling. Let's not do that anymore. Modeling can be automated, okay? Well, what's not automated is that you have to still decide who to talk to, what the targets are, and all that, but modeling process, the mathematical details itself can be done by machines now. Much, much faster. That's why a lot of data vendors build models for free. They just charge by the name. Because you know why? The cost of building those things are so much lower now. Number two, content generation. This is what ChatGPT is stirring the pot right now. It said now the last bottleneck that I talked about is always a creative, right? Oh wow, it's like we cannot create that many versions of the creatives for the one campaign without have the manpower, all that. You know what? Let's automate those things. Your job is not about staying up all night and write all these things and create creatives. You just let the machine rip it, wait, proofread it, edit it a little bit, rip it out. So much faster. By the way, I'm a songwriter, and just for the fun of it, I asked ChatGPT to write lyrics. I gave one of the titles of my own song and gave the same title, and I asked it to write a lyric. It did it in 3 minutes, and it even used a lot of words that I actually used in my song. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know how long it takes? And by the way, I'm not gonna rely on ChatGPT to write lyrics for my songs anyway. I just want to try it out. But let's just face it, creative work for marketing does not have to be some jaw-dropping lyric that you're gonna put it in some lyrics. It's not about that. It can be automated. And we should not be afraid of all these AI technologies because actually it's people who don't know what this is about and don't know how to wield the power of these things should worry about their jobs. Yeah, that much is true. But if you know how to wield these things and use it for your advantage, it's nothing to be afraid of, really. So let's step back one more time. Let's talk about personalization, and you don't have to read all these things. Basically, what my question is this. Yeah, dear sir, you're gonna do certain things, you're gonna suggest something, and oh, if you bought this and you made it like that. And Amazon does that all the time. For example, I bought this mouse from Amazon. They showed me, oh, if you bought that mouse, are you interested in more mice? They sent me all this mouse related or computer peripheral kind of offer for 2 weeks. And I'm like, you know, that's the last thing I'm gonna buy because I just bought a mouse, right? You think that that's personalization? It's better than nothing. My keyword here is, are you personally annoying people in the name of personalization? That's what we want to think about. Just because you're doing something, just because you bought some module that just rips some messages to people automatically, does not mean that you reach the goal. This is why whenever I talk about personalization, I always differentiate between reactive personalization and holistic personalization. Holistic personalization is about, you know, I want to be mindful about your need. And when I talk to you through any channel all the time, I'm going to be mindful about these things, not some reactive things. Oh, you bought this and I'm going to send you this offer. No, that's better than nothing. But yeah, I'm going to talk more about it, but basically that should not be the end goal here. one, don't know your customers. That's number one, really. How do we start changing our mindset about this? Let's do this first. Personalization is about the person. It's about the person. That's why it's personalization. It's not about channel, product divisions, or your own brand, or whatever it is. It's not about that. It's about what they want to do, what they want to hear about. So think about like online, offline. Hey guys, I bought certain things online and sometimes I bought things offline. I do that all the time, whether it be the stereo system or speakers or the guitars or the golf club, whatever it is, or furniture. I may buy certain things online or offline. Doesn't mean that you just created double the demand just because you have multiple channels. People who don't buy certain things don't buy that product any channel, okay? So let's just go beyond. Let's go beyond the channel management or even product divisions. I mean, I have clients who have like 40, 50 different product divisions, and you cannot look at them in silo. They're all correlated. And you know what? From a consumer's point of view, you go to some store or whatever, there are people who touch up on only a few aisles, right? And this is what I want to just get out. Or people who venture into every aisle. They're all different. There are ways to measure those behaviors if you do it right. The bottom line is you really should not be looking at from your own convenient point of view. You should not be doing that. It's about the person. And where do you start that? Well, you got to carve out the data that is I mean, we talk about Consumer 360 for how long now? And because it's not completely done yet with all this data Mars or big data platform, all these things, not all databases are customer centric. I'll say that now. And well, thanks to that, guys like me still have something to advise about, right? But the point is, in fact, I don't want to even talk about that with any of the clients. I want to talk about something beyond that. Oh, you know what? Customer 360 is a done deal. We have it. How should we use that thing to our advantage and how to pamper my client base? That's what we want to talk about. Now, for reactive personalization, let me just put that in the context as well. Reactive personalization means that if somebody walks into the shoe store and then he goes like, you know what, I know what I want. I want a brown shoes, dress shoes. I have to go to some event and my size is 10 and I want to, I don't know, just say those things. And you know what you do as a salesperson? Do not pull out his past data, okay? Just usher him to the department where he can find what he wants. That's reactive. Whether it be online, offline, so it doesn't matter. That's reactive. Or if you know something is happening with this person, oh, he's in market for a new car. You know, don't talk about personas or the segments anymore. He's in need for a new car, okay? So just usher them into certain places. The problem with that kind of a personalization is that, yeah, it works. It works much better than some model-based persona or the propensities or whatever, because the guy is explicitly asking for certain things. The point that I'm making is this. The richer the data, the more urgent the data maybe. It's we just call hotline names and stuff like that. The coverage goes down exponentially. Case in point, I used to have this client in London. They have all this amazing, you know, personas and data platform and all that. They could even do the personalized web content depending on who lands there. Fine. But they can only do that when somebody explicitly said, I'm interested in certain things. Well, the problem with that is that for those guys who divulged anything to the marketer, we'll get some kind of limited personalized content. But what if you don't have something explicit about the guy? And there are many reasons why. Well, maybe they're new to the business. Maybe they didn't have time to accumulate enough data for you to personalize, right? Or they've been dormant. Maybe what you know about these guys are from 3 years ago. Maybe he moved on from that. Or new to specific channels. Oh, then you did not combine all this channel information. So everything is in silo. So you think that the guy is new, although he's been a long time customer. That could be the reason. Or hide their tracks. I mean, my God, they're getting rid of cookies now. So it's so easy for consumers to hide their tracks. So that means, yeah, reacting to explicit, specific data is very good, But you got to go beyond that. Yet another framework to think about. When you say personalization, a lot of people mix things like, emails or the web or even store or whatever. No, outbound and inbound personalization should be separated. One, the channel characteristics are different. That's number one. Number two, available data are different. So let's go one more step and see what kind of situation you get into. When it's outbound, it's almost a crime not using the data that you accumulated. Because when you do the outbound marketing, that means you should know who you're talking to. If you know who you're talking to, what did I do? You should use everything that you accumulated about that guy or person. Transaction, past promotion and history data, where they are and all that. You gotta use them all. Now, when it's inbound, it's a wide net kind of a marketing, you have a net and you want somebody to walk into these things. But sometimes after they got caught in that net, they let you know who they are. Maybe it's still a good login system that you have or whatever it is. Sometimes you know that. If you know the identity of the person who just walked in, you should be doing the same thing. Bring out full force every data point that you have about that person, all the segments and personas you built for that person. You got to be using all of them. Now, the only time you cannot do it is that when somebody walks into your store or the website and you don't know who they are. They did not share their name or the phone number or email. They didn't share anything. In that case, you're bound to use what you just know about that session, where they came from, what device they're using, what source, what do they responded to, or whatever it is, the immediate browsing history and so forth. That's what I call reactive personalization. Going back, what I just said like a few slides ago, I'm differentiating the holistic personalization and reactive personalization very differently because the available data they can use are quite different. So please, what's the takeaway from this page? Do not consider the great part, the complete picture, please. There are a lot of machines and utilities that you can use to do these things, and it's good, it's better than nothing. And by the way, it works too, because if you know where they clicked and what they clicked and where they came from and all the Google tags that you use, fine, you could do those things. But what I'm saying is, you can do more than that. And also, even if you're fully using all the online data, what about the offline data? Well, that's where the CDP comes in. You combine all of it in your CDP. But for now, let's remember this framework and keep that in mind when you talk about it. And this page is the most important page that you should take away. In fact, the whole title of this webinar is about 4 key elements of the holistic personalization. So let's start with the data. Like I said, everything starts with data. If you're not using the data to personalize something, then you're just going back to the guessing game. I think that, this will just work and I'm going to just put it out because you know why my gut feeling says so. No, we way past that like 20 years ago, okay? So one is, do you have the 360-degree view of the customers? Honest question, okay? If you have the data, well, we have all kinds of data. You have a behavioral data, you have a demographic data, geographic data, the channel data, reactive data. You have all kinds of data, okay? You need analytics to make it as a simple answers to your questions. Who are more likely to do certain things? Who are more likely to buy a certain product line? Or what segments do they belong to? What are their propensity to do certain things? What are their channel behavior? You gotta convert all this data into the form of answers to your questions. So did you do that? So that's another thing. Now, I'm coming from the bottom side, by the way. I'm a data and analytics guy. The reason why I'm displaying all these things is because all these 4 elements should work together. And this is what I mean by that. Let's go back to the yellow part now. Fine, you have all the data distilled and clean and personalized, everything, great. You have all these personas and segments, great. Can you drive different kind of a content here to show different things to different people. Now that's a technology question. You cannot really avoid it. Luckily, you have a lot of commercial answers to that, whether it be modularized, like reactive website, or it could be multiple versions of an email, whatever. Yeah, you have to have the display capability so they can show different things to different people. Now going to that last hurdle, which is a content creation. This is why I'm excited about whole ChatGPT like AI technology. Do you have enough media assets to drive all these conversations? Whether it be pictures or messages or writing or whatever it is, can you do that? This has been, in my own experience, the last hurdle. I've seen a lot of companies who are really good at the bottom part, really good at it, and they have all these modules. What the bottleneck is? Yeah, we barely have 3 versions of the contents when you need 20. Okay, so this is why you have to automate this whole process and try. By the way, like I did, just try to put in something, and you don't even have to hire a new person. Just keep trying until you like it, because believe me when I say this, it is going to be faster than having you write 20 versions. Just try it, use it. If you don't like it, discard it. You just wasted about 3 minutes. So no excuse not doing all these 4 things. And from the planning stage, the CMOs and all the C-level people should think about it this way, that you cannot put any of this department head in charge of all these things. Somebody above all of them should make sure that everybody is being coordinated, involve the content creators early on, before you start building all these personas and whatever that you're building on analytics. So in other words, all these are independently important elements. Oh, I said that right there. Elements of the personalization, and you should really coordinate the whole thing. Just like making a movie, by the way. What's a good movie? Just because the script is good, the movie could be really bad looking, or it could be very good. The cinematography is great, but the conversation is boring as hell, and it's not a good movie. Or the acting could be horrible. You know what? There's not one element that will make something successful. This is the same thing. You have to really make everything work together. So let's just break down what all this generative AI changed. Because the generative AI is just one aspect of AI, by the way. Even with a clean data and properly designed segments and personas, okay, come up with the multiple versions of the creatives has been, really difficult. So I said this already in the previous page, but basically that's what much of the creative work has been done solely by human resources, and we have all limited time. So again, let's not be afraid of ChatGPT replacing your job, because the job description just changed. You're not just creating few versions of the campaign, you're creating a lot. You need AI's help, okay? It's not about AI taking over your job. It's more like, oh, so I'm supposed to be doing this many versions, so of course I need more tools or better tools or the new tools. Just try out, please. And then what you do, you set goals. This is a very important leave behind, by the way. You cannot let the AI, whether it be model building or the targeting or classification, AI can do all those things, right? If you have like a lot of SKU numbers, how do you organize all these things, all this unstructured data? Yeah, AI can classify things for you. Or set goals and to create all this content. You are the humans who have to set goals for all these AIs. And by the way, AI again, they're not good at everything. ChatGPT is really horrible at mathematics, okay? Different kind of a module. You have to put it together as a planner, supervise it. If you don't like it, edit the result. So much easier than having to write everything. So let's go back to data. We talked about data should be driving everything, right? So you go like, oh, so you have data. What kind of data sets you have? Well, we have CPT. We pay some obscene amount of money to this vendor who claimed that they built a CPT, so we have it. All right, so I have a few questions about that. If you have it, great. Let's just ask these questions. If you see you have a proper CDP, does it cover omnichannel? Or does it have all things that happen online? Have no idea what happens offline. That's not good. Is it connected on an individual level? What is a keyword in customer 360? Is a customer, okay? So you gotta do it on an individual level, not channel, not product division, not warehouse, not the store front or whatever. No, it should be about the person. Clean and reliable without going saying, but guys like me still make money because a lot of data are dirty and impossible to use. Is it up to date? I'm not all for real-time update analytics. It's very expensive because you don't make decisions real-time anyways a lot of times. Now, if the AI is making real-time decisions for you, then fine, then you need a real-time update. But fine, is it at least like updated every week, every other week, or whatever it is it updated? Is it analytics ready? Let's talk about that for a second. Or is it campaign ready? That's very important as well. If you cannot readily use it in a campaign, what good is a CDP, right? And does it support omnichannel attribution? So let's talk about that in more detail. Let's talk about single view of the customer first. This is what I mean by siloed data. I have a call center data, you have a POS data, CRM data, and all that. You have a different kind of a data set just drives an email. Maybe you have some kind of a tool set from XYZ company. Fine, you have an email base. Social media, that's another elusive one, but they may not even share the PII of these people, so I don't know. But the point is, you gotta try as much as possible to create a complete picture of a person. Because me, as a consumer, I'm not an offline guy. Let's say that I'm looking for, I'm not playing golf anymore, but let's say that I do. I got a catalog or something email about the new driver, right? What do? I'm gonna do the search. Oh yeah, that looks good. Let me just do some search. And I may end up on some online store somewhere. And I go like, yeah, sure, I could just buy right now, but yeah, you know what? It's a $300 driver. Maybe I should hit a ball a few times. And I want to use it this weekend, so I go to the store. I touched everything. And by the way, the channel, I didn't get just the email or the calendar. I got everything else. I saw the banner on Facebook. I saw all kinds of things. I am not a channel person. I'm just a guy. So can you combine all that information about me, because I'm not just an online or offline guy. In fact, in this example, can you even define what I am? I use a search. I visited a store. I landed on your website. I did all those things. Where did I buy it? I bought it from the store. But does it matter? Because your email contributed to that purchase, so the attribution should change. Point is, if you don't put it all together, you cannot see that picture. That's number one. Let's have a timeline view of what you have to do to create all these things. Now, this green part is what we call analytics. You run reports, you build models, personas, segments, you do all those things. You score the whole base. You may have 10 million people in your database. You have to score them all, right, to be useful. Traditionally, whether a machine does it or the human being does it, this is what we call analytics. Very myopic point of view. But about 80% of the analytics is about data cleansing. Sometimes it's 90%. In fact, in the old days of people building models in a regression model or whatever, literally they would build a model the last day. Hey, what have been doing for 3-4 weeks now? Well, they've been cleaning the data. And what does cleaning data mean? One, you gotta get rid of all the dirty stuff. And you have to consolidate them, because a lot of transaction data and the SKU level data, all these things are not about a person, it's about product and transactions, okay? You have to put it together. And these are sort of like gray color because it's a commodity service. You could just buy these things. There's so many companies out there who do the all the mapping of an individual and identity graph that they call it. Fine, just work with those guys. They're all good, okay? But these are your job before any kind of analytics happens. You got to categorize the data. You may have hundreds of thousands of SKUs. Did you create them? You may have all kinds of marketing offers. Did you categorize all of them? So that you know what works. Gotta do those things consistently. Sometimes I walk into a place and I see like 1,000 different offer codes not organized. Well, then how do we know what worked? How do we know that what product is responsible if you don't have any correct description of the product and product groups, you're not going to look at the SKU number when you do the analysis. For the person, you just want to know that if the person touched any kind of a home electronics category over $1,000 or whatever it is, it requires categorization. You need the summarization because you have to create descriptors of the person, not just the product. And then create variables. That's what this is all about. Now that's a timeline view. And hopefully you covered most of these green parts to user knowledge and the result analysis. If you hire a CDP company, that's what they'll do. They create some kind of a central ID, right? And then put it together. One side is the consumer behavior, transaction, what product, and what do they click, all that. And there's a marketing, there's an action, there's a reaction. Can you attribute your successful email campaign through the eyes of the individual? Now, that's a very good start. Very good start, but it's not the end story. The end story is that you gotta create customer-centric view. You gotta summarize, this is what I mean by data summarization, to create what that person is about, not descriptions of the transactions, but what the person is about. Is he more about this product or that product? Or how many times did he touch the department? How many departments did he touch? And all that, right? What's the spending level? What's the average spending for that guy? What's the average shopping basket size for that person? What's the lifetime spending? All that is about that person. The other side of it is that, yeah, sure, you sent 20 emails to that person. Is that a lot? Well, not if they responded 5 times already. You gotta understand who's over-promoted, under-promoted, and adequately promoted. That means you have to summarize all these things, properly attribute it, and then summarize it, and create a descriptor for that person. Then you know what? The guy is a habitual deleter. He's not gonna respond to anything. Maybe you have to find something. This is CDP. This blue triangle is the center of your analytics work. This is what you should do to get anything analytics ready. Otherwise, all that hard work will be dumped onto the person in charge of the machine. And by the way, you may think that, oh, the AI will take care of it with the raw data. I'm sorry, but summarized data works better for the AI too. And the AI that is good at model building will not be doing this for you. That's a different kind of a model. So just be aware of the one-size-fits-all safety solutions. I'm going to leave this behind so you can read this later. But you have to tweak a lot of things. So this is one thing that that I'm mindful. And let me just leave one word here. Exception management is the key. If you try to put your unique business model into some pre-made CDP solution, you will hit hurdle, and you have to figure out if somebody is gonna customize it for you. But let's go back to the personalization. Okay, fine, you have the data now, and you have to start something, and you know where to start, right? Well, you have to try with the machine first. Do you have the capability to drive different contents for different people? Can you show different things to different people? Let's call it a phase 1. And a lot of companies got fooled by this because they go like, oh, so we bought this personalization engine from somebody and we show different pictures to different people. My job is done. No, it's not. Let's find out, make sure actually that that machine can change its tune based on the simple segments that you provide. Okay, fine, I have 5 simple segments of my customer base. Let's see if the machine can differentiate those things. If that phase 2 completes successfully, only then you go into the phase 3 where, well, let's create a lot of propensity models, product affinity models, or the personas. Are they only adopters, or are they trend followers, or the fashionistas, whatever it is. Let's do that. Then you get to the holistic personalization stage where you can personalize regardless of the channel that you're using, regardless of the person or the when. You personalize all the time. But you don't reach that stage from day one. You gotta test these things out. While you're testing 1 and 2, I strongly suggest you really look at your database itself and start creating personas and models. So let's talk about modeling and personas a little bit more. I differentiate segments and personas a bit because it's quite different. Segment is more like, let's throw the whole data on a wall, see what clings together. That's segment, okay? It's very good for messaging because you cannot create unlimited, so far, you could not create unlimited versions of the messaging. So limiting to few segments has been very helpful. Again, segmentation is a messaging tool, not necessarily a targeting tool. Personas, conversely, is built one attribute at a time. It's much easier to maintain. If some model is falling behind, just rebuild that model. You don't have to rebuild the whole thing. And in my past, I managed like 150 personas for a company, for example. And without my help, by the way, I know that Home Depot has like 140 personas just in the home improvement category, okay? Why do they need so much? Because they are ready for all kinds of different situations and combination of personas. Somebody could be interested in that kind of a product line. At the same time, he's getting into the do-it-yourself kind of a thing or whatever, or he's an early adopter, blah, blah, blah. You can combine these things. Segment is more like, you know what, you're pinned. If your name is Stephen Yu, like my name is Stephen Yu, and then basically you pin that guy into one segment and the guy's stuck. And the way you treat the segment is that, hey, there could be a million other people in the segment, but the average of that segment is driving the conversation. So it's more like, how do I put it? More like a shotgun approach, if you will. I'm not dogging segments, by the way. You need both, but just be aware that that's not the end game. You need both. So you gotta really think more in terms of personas. Especially when the segments are based on rules, you gotta really be aware of this situation. I mean, you have like 1,000 variables in your database. You're gonna create a segment based on just income and age. We used to do that 30 years ago. You don't do that anymore. You don't know what variables are or combinations of variables are important. You gotta use the machine. Number two, fine. Income and age is important to you. Fine, I'll give you that. But how important are they? There are so many other variables. The weight should be different. And number three, the banding should be different. Well, income is important. Let's just give you that. Income is important. But how high is high for you? Why $100,000? Why not $123,000? Okay, machine does not care about your mental boundary. They don't care. It will just combine things based on the effectiveness to describe the target. That's what it does. So again, if you're doing the rule-based segmentation, great. It's good for phase 1 or 2. Don't think that, please. That's the end goal. Then what's so different about personas? Personas are built one thing at a time. Let's pretend that there's only 4 people in your database, okay? Well, you could do it for tens of millions of people. And then you can have hundreds of personas. So let's just pretend that you have only 4. What I'm trying to illustrate is this. This person here is a frequent traveler, and I'm not changing anything else. This guy is a frequent traveler, maybe not so much as A, but the C person is that. But he's also an early adopter. Wow. You don't want to treat this guy as a one thing. You can rotate messaging for this guy now. Because you know what? He's strong in multiple categories. You know what he's not? He's not a family guy. He's a single guy, right? Probably. This person is a heavy traveler, and she's mostly about her family. Imagine unlimited number of combinations of all these personas when you do these things. And by the way, I was sheepish about pitching these ideas for a lot of people because so what if you can do these things? I don't have any way to create that many contents or creative versions. That's why I was shy about it, but I'm not shy anymore because of the ChatGPT and all these other things, right? So this is ultimately a messaging tool and the selection tool at the same time. Maybe you know that, oh, I'm just targeting the travelers. Fine, pick these 2 guys. And you score over 7 or 8, fine, pick those 2 guys. I'm talking about family stuff. Well, let's pick her. Not anybody else is qualified. So you can use it as a selection tool and a messaging tool. I'm not going to spend too much. I can just read and you can. I'm just giving you the examples of the personas. And this is the time that you get selfish. Imagine what kind of a product you're trying to push. Imagine what kind of a people, and I have a second page, people you want to talk to. Let's say the women's interest, which is everything. I mean, all kinds of things. Just think about what personas will react to it, build it. Again, model building is much faster now. Don't excuse, well, oh, you took 3 weeks to build one model. No, that's yesterday's excuse. I'm sorry. That excuse doesn't fly. If your database is in a horrible condition, maybe. Then you know what? Maybe you should build a better CDP, right? Point that I'm making is this. This is your list. And in fact, I'll be happy to help you create a persona menu if you're into that stage. But I'm not asking you to build 100 some personas day one. Pick 5, please. Just start somewhere. Maybe simple than an early adopter or the bargain seeker or something obvious, right? So that you don't offer some heavy discount for everybody. The money lost. Just know who you're dealing with. I talked a lot about it, so I'll just leave this page as a leave behind, okay? But basically, oh, this is a good one. In persona, there's no missing value. What did I talk about? Known explicit data. They're great when you have it, but if you don't know anything, it's blank. You end up treating the same way because you don't know anything about that person. There's no missing value in models. Even a very low score means something. Maybe you should not talk about family-oriented stuff with this guy because it's so low, right? Bottom line, you got to coordinate all these 4 key elements to make it happen. It has to happen on a C level, by the way. Because I've seen cases where, oh, head of analytics is in charge of this, or head of marketing is in, the creative division is in charge. No, they should be working together, and they should not be invited at the last minute. They should work together from the planning stage. And if you have digital asset management system, great. All I'm asking is this. Any damn system has a room to tag, create a column, customized column, assign each creative element, assign what persona should be looking at it. Just assign that. It's so easy, right? It could be the segment, it could be persona, it could be whatever, it could be multiple. Now, if you do that, then bringing it all together becomes much, much easier. So if you don't have the DAM, you gotta think about it. If you do have it, please allow a space to tag all these things. I'm gonna skip through because it's getting late. I'm just gonna talk about the future a little bit. If you see remember the movie, Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, I'm so much younger than Mission Impossible movie now, but anyway. You have the scene where this guy walks into the store. Remember that scene? The machine knows who he is and it suggests something, and then AI projects some kind of hit himself as a model and put different clothing. We can do all these things, albeit much, much more slowly. You cannot, even if you hire AI to do it, you cannot skip the steps, number 1. Number 2, different algorithms need for each step. Targeting, propensity modeling, and matching and recognition, that's all different kind of a modules. So think about it as using all this technology to your benefit to put it all together. That's what you should be thinking about. Information might slow. I'm going to skip all this because we're running out of time. But basically, what I'm leaving behind is this. The human factor never changes. You got to humanize the data. You got to use it for your and consumers' benefit. And don't skip the things. So with that, I'm gonna just leave this behind. I have a PDF version that I left behind with ANA, so you get it if you want it. And please read it more thoroughly. And I have some questions that I'm gonna answer, but before I do that, I wrote all these things in the past. I have a lot of articles, like 108 articles in Adweek. A lot of them are about personalization. Please find it. If you cannot find it, you can find it on my website. And if you still need help, I can pick articles for you. So please let me know. And with that, I'm going to take some questions. Oh, I didn't quite read the.
Steven, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know that there are some questions in the Q&A module, so I'm just going to read them off.
Sure.
What are the best practices around creating personas that most accurately represent the audience? I.e., what factors should we be looking at? Location, user preferences, previous products purchased. In
that case, all of it, but I'm going to rank it. The most
Okay.
predictive ones are past behavior. Past behavior is the single most accurate predictor of the future behavior, by the way. People don't change that much. And I'll look at the demographic and geodemographic as a sprinkle on the ice. If you're building a kind of a responsiveness or the channel attribution model, then you have to look at the channel behavior as well. So in that order, I'll start with the transaction data first, like what they bought, how much they paid for it, who bought it, where they bought it, how much they paid for it. That kind of a transaction is the single most accurate predictor of the future behavior. And if you have more questions, please let me know, but I'm going to just cut it short because I have other questions.
Yeah, I just let's try and I have another question from Akash. But isn't the whole concept of CDP real-time targeting? For that, you need real-time updated data.
Well, reactive personalization, yes, it is. For holistic personalization, what's interesting about it is when you go holistic, you're doing it with or without the real-time data. Your persona don't change overnight. If you're an early adopter, you're an early adopter. The whole joke is this. You know, people used to collect like movies using DVDs and Blu-ray and stuff like that. They don't do it anymore because nobody makes Blu-ray, right? But they stopped watching movie. The channel changed, but their affinity for certain types of movie don't change. These things don't change overnight. So there are long tail personas and they're reactive, kind of a reactiveness that's important. If somebody walks into somewhere and then you have to react it fast, that's real time. But not all real time data should flow back into the CDP because you don't even have time to update it. So no, it's not all about real-time responsiveness. I have seen cases where, let's say you have a Salesforce as an email engine, and you feed certain reactive elements, the real-time data into it so they can react fast. It could be product data, the browsing data, all that kind of stuff. While you build more holistic CDP where you go back, way back. Even the dormant customers are in there. Even the recent new customers who have not much history is in there. You have demographic data in there. You have all this like email response and promo histories in there. So if you look at it that way, that kind of a big data could update it weekly. In fact, if you're building a real-time model, I'm all for it. Do it, please. But before you hit the real-time modeling stage, it's an overkill. So in other words, it is so much more, it's a cost issue. It's not about what we want. Real-time update is really costly these days when you combine all these elements that I talked about. So there are certain parts that has to be real-time, but not all of them. Another thing, just because something is not real-time is no excuse not doing these things, because a lot of personas don't change overnight. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, so Stephen, I know we have someone, John Bellett, I believe you have your hand raised, and forgive me because unfortunately my screen doesn't allow me to see it. But if you want to type it in the chat box.
Sure.
There you go, John. Okay.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
see the chat. Sure, I can type my answers there if you can stay behind.
I'm gonna unmute John if you want to ask your question directly.
Oh, sure.
We're having.
What was the question anyway?
I'm not sure, for some reason I'm having a bit.
Okay, do not have a. I don't have any. I only answered. Okay, dismissed. No, I shouldn't dismiss. Open. Isn't the whole concept? I answered the question. Hopefully, best practice around the creating personas that most accurately. I think I answered that as well.
Yeah, I somehow we are having some technical issues with but well we'll conclude here. And
Sure.
Stephen, we got a lot in 1 hour. And
We did. This presentation is getting longer and longer because the technology
but
changes.
I mean, it's fabulous, and I know this is just the starting point, and I just wanted to direct everybody to your email address in the event that they have any subsequent questions. Just wanted to remind everybody that this presentation has been recorded to appear on the landing page of our website in a few days. So so turn back in a few days and we'll have it there. Also, we are going to send you a Survey Monkey so we can get your feedback on today's session and what we can do in terms of our content moving forward for the remainder of the year and into next year, what you'd like to see. Stephen, I know we will be having you back again. Thank you for getting us out the gate and started with holistic personalization and ChatGPT this afternoon.
Great. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I wish I had more time, but if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll try to answer every question that I get.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everybody.
Great. Thanks so much.
Have a good day.